Hi, it's Patrick Smith again here at the West Virginia Game Developer Expo 2017 here at Mount West. And so I'm down here talking with Chris Ingerson, who's from Sleepy Owl Software, and he has a game, Text Quest. So Chris, tell me a little bit about Text Quest.
So Text Quest is a first-person text-based adventure where everything in the world is made up of text. So walls say the word wall, grass is the word grass repeating along the ground, and giant spiders say giant spider. And you actually interact with everything by typing into a parser. So if you want to open a door, type open door, eat an apple, eat apple, and slap rock with fish. And as long as there's a fish in your inventory and a rock to be slapped with it, you'll do that.
Oh my goodness, that's absolutely amazing. When I was seeing it played, just for some reason I felt like I kept on thinking like Shadowgate, or I thought of like old Dungeons and Dragons on the Intellivision or something. And I mean, your graphics are so much better, but it takes the world of MUDs and text-based games and it mixes it with 3D graphics in such an inventive way. So it's absolutely awesome. Where was your inspiration behind this game? So
the original idea came out of a joke in a student game development group I was in college. I was part of a group called Hoosier Games over at Indiana University, and we always joked, well, we have great artists, but they can't keep up with demand. So what kind of game could we make that doesn't require art? Well, text-based adventures.
Oh, there you go.
And we kept joking about it year after year until eventually it was like, I'm going to try that. And then I thought, how do you make text-based adventures interesting? Because they've been around since the 70s. They're pretty much one of the first genres. Right. And they have not aged well. So I came up with an idea originally of a 2D adventure game, sort of like ASCII art everywhere. But then I went to lunch with a couple of coworkers of mine, and we sort of hashed out this idea of maybe actually everything should be 3D. And over the course of that weekend, basically that was a Friday lunch, I had 2 days to make a prototype, and then we pitched it on Monday. Well, I pitched it on Monday. And I had to have a prototype because this thing does not work on paper. It has to be seen. It's an idea that just doesn't work unless you see it. It's like you had your own internal games jams that everyone talks about going to for 48 hours. You did your own. And it was absolutely necessary. The original demo was incredibly terrible and very, very straightforward. Like you had to type things specifically. Like, straight down to capitalization had to be perfect. So obviously I had to run it, but it was just a simple little empty room with brick textures on the side that just said brick, 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 brick. Wood floors that just said wood, 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 and then ceiling tiles that said tile, 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 tile. But from that little demo, just the group got super interested in it. We voted that in for the project for that semester, one of the 2 projects we worked on. And then that's where the start of it came from. That's very cool. Now, you did mention you did that in college, so tell me how you got into programming. So it's actually because of Text Quest. So before Text Quest, I was a designer, like just design. I didn't program. I dabbled a little bit with Flash, and then a little bit of JavaScript. But I wasn't really something I thought I wanted to do. But then when I first started working on Text Quest, I had a group of people with me. I was about 7 people strong, I think. But within about 2 weeks, all of them left. And that's not to dig on them. It was a student project, and it was a student project that wasn't for a class. So there was no extrinsic motivation. It was purely intrinsic motivation that kept me going because it was my game. But it was your game, totally. So it was your passion. Right. So because my programmer left, that meant someone had to program, and that meant me. I gotcha. So I basically started coding very terribly to start, and then fortune smiled on me actually because I knew someone who was leaving a job at a local game company. And they asked me if I would like them to introduce me to that company so that I could maybe get a job there. Oh, okay. And I said basically, yes, obviously. Get your foot in the door of that company. Right, and it was just a small educational games company. It wasn't anything big or anything like that. Right. But because of that, I was able to actually work with people who knew what they were doing in some sense. Right. So even though I started off with no skills whatsoever, there's a lot of self-teaching going on, but once you spend even 5 minutes with someone, you can immediately see where the flaws in your own workflow are, and you can just sort of pick out things to improve yourself right away. And then over the course of time, I just got better. You just have to keep at it, pretty much. Right. And that's kind of how I got started. So what advice would you have for someone who's sitting there maybe watching this on YouTube thinking, I think I'd kind of like to do that, but it seems too daunting. I wouldn't even know where to start. What do I do? Do it. That's honestly the simplest answer, and that's probably the one that most people will tell you is just do it. But, I mean, for programming specifically, you're going to be going to Google every day of your life for the first year that you're learning how to program, and then eventually one day you'll realize, I didn't go to Google today to figure out how to do this thing. Right. And slowly, more and more, you'll not have to go to see what Google tells you how to do things. or Stack Overflow or any of those other websites, because someone's always done what you wanted to do.
Sure.
But after enough time, you'll realize you don't need to see what other people did because you know how to do it yourself this time.
I've found over the years, I've had to go to Google less, but the times I have to go to Google, I get so frustrated because in my mind, the way I think I should explain what I'm wanting is probably the complete wrong nomenclature, vocabulary, and I spend 6 months looking for somebody, and I'll talk to a fellow programmer, and they're like, oh, you mean like dynamically linked select boxes? And I was like, that's what I should have called that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, I actually, so about 2 years ago, I think, I was talking with someone about possible new features to implement in my game, and they brought up basically word suggestions, which is what I have now, but I didn't have any idea how to do that before. And then this person who was a systems, or I guess I shouldn't say exactly what they were, but basically they knew a lot more about systems and data design than I did.
Sure.
And they brought up this idea of a tree, TRIE, a data tree. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. What is that? And they proceeded to explain to me at length what this thing was, and that got me on the path to implement a feature that I would have never thought of, but someone who had the experience knew how to do that.
Very awesome.
So it's one of those things where sometimes you find things, or sometimes people inform you of things that you had no idea about before, and that just changes your entire approach.
So your game, Text Quest, where is it in the stage of development? And if it's past that stage, where can people look to find it?
So it's about 60% done right now.
Okay.
I've been saying it's 60% done for the past 2 years, but
that's okay. You're still working on it.
I'm still working on it. Although it actually is now about 60% done. I'm trying to finish up the second third of the game by the end of this year.
Right.
And then I'm hoping to actually finish the last third within about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Because I'm doing all the art, programming, sound design, and everything on it. And that takes me forever.
It's one-man band.
So my goal is about within 2 years to get it launched. It's already been greenlit on Steam, so it'll be available on there when it's ready to go.
Look for it there, hopefully.
Yeah, and the website actually, TextQuest.com or TextQuestGame.com, has a demo up there.
Okay.
It's not the most up to date. It is about a year old at this point, but it does get all the points across that the game is trying to do. It does.
Okay.
Shows you interaction, shows you the aesthetic of the game, shows you how you can progress, shows you combat, which is actually in there, and you should totally check it out because it's fun.
Well, I know that. I know that you're only 60% through, but any idea where you want your platform to be? Are we talking Windows only? Are we talking Windows and Mac or Linux for someone like me?
So it's actually, the demo here is running on my Mac.
Oh,
so,
perfect. That's great.
So yeah,
fellow brother.
Yeah, it is going to be on Mac and PC, definitely. I am also targeting Linux. I have not actually tested Linux yet.
Okay.
Because I had to nuke my Linux partition, but
I secretly don't care about them. I just care about the Mac.
Well, I also just want to have as many people possible that can play it.
Sure.
So if I can get it on all three platforms, that's great, because that means people who are running Linux can play it.
Right.
But that is a goal.
Right. Okay. Well, perfect. The game looks amazing. Once again, Text Quest, TextQuestGame.com. Go and check it out. Check out the demo. Look forward to it on Steam. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Enjoy the expo.
You too.
Awesome.